All right, so Chapter 2, if you've got the regular book, starts on page 25, and it's on HTML basics. All right, I'm not going to try to do too much duplication, so I don't feel like I have to really tell you what HTML and HTML5 are. All right, don't worry about the XHTML. It's kind of a convergence between that XML that I mentioned and HTML. All right, but we're going to talk about markup languages. You're going to see this. The other day, if you remember, because we were kind of pressed for time, I showed you a very simple little website, all right, that just had a few things in it. Some of the stuff that we talked about will be in this chapter, all right? So the chapter gets you started on your first page. Again, I'm of the mindset that I want to do a little talking, but I want to do a lot of us doing things, all right? HTML is an example of a markup language, so technically it's not a programming language. HTML is what's known as a tag-based language. So everything you do within tags. You may or may not remember, but one of the things I showed you yesterday was out on the W3 School site. I showed you in the HTML tag list. That's also on the thing that I just gave you that's on the flash drive. All right, on the list of URLs. There's the tag list is in there. I already mentioned what XML is, and very quickly what XHTML is. It's not that important. What we're concerned with, if you decide when you leave this program that you'd really like to be a web developer, you want to be able to trumpet the fact that you're well versed in HTML5. All right, it's not hard to learn HTML, but HTML5 has got new things that are added that were not in the earlier versions. Now, I think I showed you this yesterday, but it does bear repeating, and that is, that's not what I want. I showed you this tag list yesterday. No, not like that. There. And I mentioned that a bunch of these have the little thing here. Those are all new to HTML5. All right? So that's the stuff that was added. Just to give it to you in a nutshell, one of the biggest things are it's much easier to put audio and video into web pages using HTML5. And I don't know if you're aware of this or not, I'm not asking, but some of you may have an Apple machine in here. All right, some kind of an Apple. And Apple made the decision a few years ago they weren't going to support Flash. All right, the Flash isn't dead, all right, but it's kind of slowly dying. And a lot of the stuff that you used to have to use Flash for, you can now use with HTML5, all right, which made it very popular from the get-go. And there's a bunch of stuff in here. I'm not going to go through any more of the stuff, all right, but by and large, the other thing is you'll hear this term, it's called the semantic web. And the idea is that when you create this stuff, you've got different kinds of tags, so somebody can look at the tag and know exactly what it means. So back in the olden days, like a few years ago, if I told you to do something, we would have used what are called div tags for basically everything. Now, at the beginning of our document, we're going to use a header tag. All right? When we create our navigation, we're going to use a nav tag, etc. Those are HTML5 tags. So you're going to learn to create web pages using HTML5 type, of attributes. All right, the author says here, what kind of software do I need? We already talked about this. You need a browser. You also need some kind of editor. I mentioned a couple of them to you yesterday, or a few of them. There's Notepad++, there's Atom, which is at atom.io, and there's Brackets, which is at brackets.io. All right? But you should have some kind of an editor. You literally can use just regular Notepad, but Notepad by itself is a pain in the butt to use. All right. Do you remember this from yesterday? I showed you this line of code that said doc type HTML, and I mentioned that that's the document type definition, or the DTD. All right. Now, you may have noticed that when I did it yesterday, I did it in lowercase. Here they have it in uppercase. This is one of the few times it doesn't matter which case you use. All right, you'll see it both ways. I just put everything I do in HTML, I put in lowercase, all my stuff. All right. So here's a template for a web page. right here. This doesn't look that different from what I showed you yesterday. So let's go through this line by line. The first line that you see in there is your document type definition. All right? We already mentioned it. It tells the system that what you're doing is you're using HTML5. That's what it does. That's its job. The second line that's in there, HTML lang equals EN. HTML is a tag-based language. There's your beginning HTML tag. There's your ending HTML tag. And you're letting it know that you're using English. Okay? Then you've got your head, which starts there and ends there. The head, again, is stuff that doesn't appear on the web page itself. All right? So this has got a couple things in here. It's got the title, which appears in that tab that's up here. So that'll say page title goes here. And it's got the character set. We talked about that yesterday. I mentioned to you Unicode and ASCII character sets. This basically says we're using a Unicode character set. All right? Then we've got our body tag, beginning body tag, ending body tag. Everything that's in there goes on the web page itself. Does all that make sense? So they go through it and they say this is the HTML element, this is the lang element. Some of the stuff that's been added now for HTML5 is there's now a head tag, all right, or a header tag, I should say. When I mentioned to you what the head does, I said that's the stuff that doesn't appear out right on the page. Then it included the title, a meta tag. Meta means data about data, all right? And we talked about the body. So we've hit all these already. Okay, if you want more, if you think, well, you're not giving us everything, then go read the chapter. I think I'm giving you enough that I think you'll understand what it is we're talking about. All right, rather than starting right now and creating our first web page, it's just about 8:50. So I'm on the bottom of page 29 in the book, but let's take a break and let's come back, please, at 9 o'clock. I'm not going to stop taping. I'm just going to suspend it right now. If you look up on the screen here, okay, if you look up on the screen, this was yesterday. Now it says complete hands-on practice 2:1 to 2:15. It's actually due today at the beginning of class. Well, yesterday was such a screwed up day that what we're going to do between now and the end of class is we're going to complete exercises 2:1 through 2:15 as a class, those practices. We're going to go through those. We're not going to maybe do them exactly in the order, etc., but we'll go through all of the stuff. It is your responsibility that if something doesn't make sense, that you ask. I'll try to remember always when we get to the end of something to say, are there any questions? But again, I say this, first of all, you probably have heard this from other instructors or other people. There is no such thing as a stupid question. You don't have to ever preface a question. I know this is stupid, but typically when you start and when you say something, that what you do is you get everybody to start listening now because they want to hear what you think is a stupid question. All right? But there's a good chance if you've got a question, somebody else has the same question. All right? So please ask, because I'm not clairvoyant. You know, if I ask if there are any questions and no one raises their hand, I'm going on, because I think there are no questions. All right, so we're going to do that. And what I'd like you to do then is by tomorrow is I'd like you to get that done, you know, get it all done. We'll put it into a folder and just have you email me the folder. All right? You all know how to zip a folder, and if you don't, well, we even go over that before the end of class. All right? What I'm going to ask that you do is if you've got your machine here with you, now you can do this wherever you want. I'm going to do it right on my desktop. It's probably the easiest place to do it. So on the desktop here, I'm going to right mouse click and choose new folder. All right? Everybody cool with that? Right mouse click, choose new folder, and I'm just going to call it Chapter 2. No spaces, no anything. Just Chapter 2, and I'm going to hit enter. Okay, so now, after I've done that, I actually hit enter twice, so now I'm in Chapter 2. Everybody see that? Okay, so to start with, I'm going to right mouse click. Inside of this white area here, I'm going to right mouse click. I'm going to choose new text document. So I'm right mouse clicking new text document, and I'm going to click that. And it's got something called new text document.txt. Well, I want to change the whole thing. I want to change it to index.html. And when I do that, it comes back and it says, hey, you're going to change the extension. Are you sure you want to do that? Yes. So we right mouse clicked in our folder, we chose new, all right, and we made the new folder. Then we right mouse clicked inside of there, chose new text document. It came up with new text document.txt. We changed the name to index.html and said yes. If you've done that and your icon has changed, you did it right. If you're not sure if you did it right, then you have to raise your hand. All right, I don't mind help. That's fine. I don't mind helping people. I don't. All right. Now there'll come a time when you'll get it. You just will. Okay. Yeah. Let's do it. Actually, I think it's probably saved it as index.html.txt. Is my guess. Let's remove that one. So just delete that. Okay. All right. Now right mouse click again. Choose new. And like we did before, text document. Right now, type in there. It's not showing your extensions. That's what the problem. That's fine. Just let's do it this way. Do you have any editor loaded on here? You have Notepad++ or anything loaded on? Okay, start up Notepad++. And that's fine. You just accept. You're going to accept everything it says. You shouldn't have to change anything. All the defaults should be fine. Cannot continue installation. It says Notepad++ is running. All right. So it says you already have it. Okay, that's okay. That's fine. So just do a file new. All right, and immediately do a file save as. You'll want to go to your desktop, click there, and you've got your Chapter 2 folder, so double click on there. Now the easiest way to do this is to click in here, and you can change the type, but you don't even have to do that, just right there where you are, get rid of all that stuff that's in there, and put in there in double quotes, index.html. So double quote, index.html, double quote. How that changed? Okay. So that's fine. You can get rid of the other one if you want. Okay. So you're okay? All right. Yes. You probably have the same thing that he had. Do you have an editor loaded on here? I do. Okay. Why don't we just do Notepad++? That's something. So open up the browser window. And type in right in there. Just type in Notepad++ down. That's it. Download, yeah. No. It's a good thing. Just click download. From now on, you won't have to worry about it. It's not show you how to do this. Tape it. Now, by right, everybody else has got it. All right, you've been able to create the file, etc. Yeah, I got to remember how to do that. What it is you've got to turn on to show extensions. You know what I'm saying? File extensions. You got to turn that on. Just accept all of them. So you just need to put the next line where you have the next. So finish. Great, that's fine. Just do a file new. Yeah. And do a file save as. And you'll have to click your desktop over here. And did you make a Chapter 2 folder? You'll find that in here. And double click on it once you find it. Okay. And all right, well, that's okay. We'll do another file save as. Now you're right where you want to be. So just now double click on Chapter 2. Now in here, click in here, get rid of index.html double quote. Now, let's save or save. Okay. Now, I want to show you something. Some of you I showed this to individually, but I want everybody to see this. And I want to show you how I do things. Not because, well, since I'm doing them, it's got to be the right way. No. But to me, what I'm about to show you is what I consider the safest way to do things. Okay? So, when I came in here, you all saw how I made this. All right? Now, I've got file extensions turned on here. Not all of you do. So that's why yours, it was harder for you to change yours. But if let's just say you're using Notepad++ like I am. So you come in here, and in Notepad++, okay, I can come in here and I can do, I'll do a brand new file here. Let me close all this. I got a bunch of junk open in here. No. Okay, so if I come in here, the best way to do this when you start up a new file is to say File, Save As, and then tell it where you want it to save it. So I'm on my desktop, and I'm in the Chapter02 folder that I just created, right there. I'm going to get rid of this file. Just pretend it's not there. So I want to save the file I'm working on. So whatever name it has in here probably won't be index.html. So you come into here and remove whatever's there. Now, most people then will just type in index.html and hit enter. That'll work sometimes, but it may not work all the time. Sometimes it might save your file then as index.html.txt, which isn't what you want. So if you want to make sure it always saves correctly, when you save it, you can do one of two things. You can either click down here where it says normal text file, and you can find where it says HTML, which is in here someplace. All right, hypertext markup language. So you can do that, or the easiest way I think to do it is just to put the name of your file in double quotes, index.html. So double quote, index.html, double quote. Don't ever put blank spaces in a file name. It'll screw up your operating system. It doesn't always understand what you're trying to do then. All right, so if I click save, there it is. Now it says right here, I'm in index.html in my Chapter 2, and if I take a look in my Chapter 2 folder, there it is. Does that make sense? Yes.
Are we replacing the one that we have in there? That's what it's asking me to do.
Yeah, if you can replace it. We haven't put anything into it yet anyway, so it's okay. All right, does what I just mentioned, oh, again, if you have a problem with it, if you try to do it again later, please ask. Again, I don't want it where anybody ever feels like, geez, I can't ask. Nobody else has questions. Hey, just ask. And if it really bugs you that much, send me an email, see me during the break, whatever. All right, I'll work with you if I have to. That's not a problem at all. So we should all be right here, correct? All right. So we're going to start creating our first web page. Now, I'm going to type in what's on the bottom of page 30 in the book, and I'm going to type it in kind of quickly.
Just give me a blank page when I open that one up.
Pardon me?
Just give me a blank page when I open that up.
There shouldn't be anything on it yet. We're at it.
Yeah, I can't even like type or anything.
Got it?
Yep.
Thank you. So that's everything right there. Hopefully that's big enough where everybody can see it. I'd like you to put this in. All right? After you get that done, save it. Now please look up on the screen. Believe me, you'll have time to finish this. But let's just say you've got it finished. The easiest way, one of the nice things about Notepad++ is you can run this right in the browser. So you click Run, Launch in Chrome. There it is. Now, it's not very big right now, but it is the first thing that we've created. All right, if you try to do that and you have any problems, please raise your hand. But this is the first practice, so I'd like you to put this in. We're just going to combine, we're just going to keep adding to this file, okay? Later, in a later chapter, I think it's the next chapter, we're going to learn how you can start formatting this. So if I wanted the words hello world to be in red, for example, I could do that. We're going to get into that stuff in the next chapter. I'll leave that up there for a minute so you can all put that in. Yes?
So your way just makes it clear to read, like when you space out the title.
Yeah, I was taught it this way to do a lot of indentation. If you want to do that, that's fine. I think it makes it easier to read. If you like the way the author does it better, that's okay too. You know, the bottom line is, you know, I always give this example, and maybe it's not a good one. If I said to you, hey, tomorrow we're meeting in St. Louis, okay? I wouldn't say to you, tomorrow we're meeting in St. Louis, every one of you has to take I-70 East. I wouldn't do that because I don't know where you live and I don't care where you live, but as long as you got there, that's all I care about, correct? In much the same way, I'm more concerned with, do you have the right output? Does your web page look the way it should look? And again, if that makes it easier for you to read because of the way I spaced out, then please do it that way. Yes?
You need something else for UTF?
Yes, I'm sorry. It's UTF 8. I apologize. There's an 8 there.
And then how do you do comments in HTML?
Question was, how do you do comments in HTML? Let's quick look. Let's put a comment, right there, right after hello world. You put in a less than sign and an exclamation point and 2 dashes, and then you could put in whatever you want. Just going to write the word comment in there, and then you put in 2 dashes and a greater than sign. So whenever you do comments, this is the way you start a comment. That's the way you end a comment. It's green, and what that shows the system is the system does not look at that. It's skipped by the system. You put comments in for you. Believe me, there will come a time in your programmatic career you will do something and you won't write a comment. You'll look at it again 6 months later and you go, what the hell did I do this for? So if you put a comment in there, that'll answer that question. All right? You wouldn't normally put in a comment that said comment. All right? We could put our name at the top if we wanted to. You know how to do that now. Now, HTML is, in many ways, it's a forgiving language. If you screw up, it'll try to figure out what you mean to do, and it'll try to run with that. Does that make sense? I always tell this, you know, I give a lot of non-computer analogies here. But I've got a friend, a guy, I haven't seen him in years now, but a guy that I knew since high school, and he was really a good guitarist. He was in a group. I mean, I just marveled at the way the guy could play. And he was playing one day, and he was going a little nuts. He was downstairs. I was downstairs with him in his basement. And he had the amp hooked up to his electric guitar. And I said, you ever playing? I said, you're going so nuts like this, and you break a string? He's like, he just started laughing. He goes, yeah, that's happened to me before. I said, what do you do? He said, I turn my amp up. And I said, why do you do that? He said, because people can't tell them because it's just so loud. Make sense? And he said, every once in a while I'll play at a little coffee house and I'm using a folk guitar. And if I break a string there or if I make a mistake, I don't have an amp. Everybody can hear it. All right? So, I mean, again, what does this really have to do with anything? Well, when you are working on this stuff, all right, it really and truly isn't going to matter where we are right now. You can act as though you're using an electric guitar. That if something is wrong, nobody will really know the difference. Now, if you are creating something for someone where they know what you're doing and they're going to be looking at what it is you're doing and they're going to ask, why'd you do this? Why'd you do this? Then it's more like you're playing a folk guitar. But for what we're doing right now, I'm not trying to teach you to be sloppy, not in the least. But what I'm saying is we're learning right now. And it's the old saying of we're learning by, we're putting our feet into the kiddie pool and just dangling them in there. And then we'll jump into the kiddie pool. All right. It's not like my father used to tell me, he always used to tell me how his dad taught him to swim. I said, yeah, how? So he put me in a burlap bag and threw me in the middle of a lake. I don't really believe that. All right. But knowing my late grandfather, he could have done that. All right. But we're learning slowly. We're getting into the fundamentals right now. All right. Did anybody have any problem with that? Yes, sir. Okay. Well, it could be a lot of things. Yeah, launch and Chrome would be it. Okay. Well, it is bringing it up. That means there's something in your file. Go back to your file if you would, please. Just go back down here. I should be able to click on there. You go. So let's see what you got here. See where you got HTML equal EN, how there's no greater than sign at the end there? Look at it real quick. Now that's all I see, or looking at it very quickly. So save it and then try to run it again. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons. Now, and I'm not picking on him, okay? But what he just did right here was he left off that tag, that greater than sign. So notice leaving it off, and it's a common thing to do when you do a run in Chrome. Mine still ran. Now, did it really still run? It may have or it may not have. All right, but with his, it didn't run. It basically said there was something I don't understand. And as soon as you put in, do you notice how when I did that? Can you see how this thing turned black? See that right there? But once I put it back in, it goes back and turns blue again. The system tries using color coding that when you do something that it doesn't understand, it tries to show you. All right? So I'm going to save that again and then do a run, launch in Chrome, and that's all we should have. Now, I'm taking for granted that worked for you. All right? So that was the first one. Okay, so we've tested it. So we've done everything on 31, 32, in the middle of page 33. Then on the bottom of page 33, they talk about heading elements. Do you remember yesterday when I showed you this? I'm going to get rid of this thing that says Hello World. Remember when I did this for you yesterday? And then when we got done, I went and copied it. And we put it in there 6 times because we looked at the different sizes. And whoops, and every time you've got a beginning H1, it's got to be an ending H1. Beginning H2, it's got to be an ending H2. Beginning H3, an ending H3, etc. So if you would please, put those in. Exactly like I have right here. If you want to leave that hello world in there, you can. You don't have to. It's totally up to you. But I want yours, when you get done, to look like this. All right? And just if you look up on the screen here, notice now when I run it, that's the way yours should look when you run it. All right? And I should probably change that, so that should say a 2, 3, 4. I don't care if you type in what they have in the book, where they say heading level, or you type in H1 element or whatever. It doesn't matter. That's not really what's important right here. Now, on the bottom of page 34 and going on to page 35, they start to talk about a subject that we'll get to later. Okay, I'm going to introduce a term to you right now. I want you to hear this term. All right? And that term is H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6. They are what are called block level elements. Block level. Some way or another, that's going to be on one of your first tests. All right. What that means is every time I put in one of these, it'll automatically put in a blank line after it. Did you notice that when I ran this, how there's a blank line here, 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 and there's one here? They're block level, so they go on their own line. Okay? That's what they're saying. What we'll learn in a little bit is not only are there what are called block level elements, there are also what are called inline elements. They don't have a line, blank line after them. All right, so it's block level versus inline. All right, so we just went through, so we've learned in here, yes?
It's not like popping out this the blank white page.
Okay, all right, I'll be right there. What we've learned so far is we've gone over, really, when you look at this, 6 tags, H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6, correct? All right, let's put another one in here, then I'm going to go help you, Tony, but I'm going to put in what's called a P tag for a paragraph. Now, paragraphs can oftentimes run over multiple lines, so if you'll notice here, I'm putting my tags on different lines. And I'm going to put the old, now is the time for all good people to come to the aid of their party. And it's such a great line for a paragraph that I'm going to take it and I'm going to put it in there a bunch of times. And I see I spelled the word to wrong, which is really hard to do when you think about it. All right, so I've got it in there. I put it in there on purpose just a bunch of times. I'm going to save it, run it again, and now you notice what it looks like. That make sense? All right. You can put any sentence in you want. It doesn't really matter. Okay, it's got to be in your HTML file someplace. There's got to be a tag missing or something. I'll tell you what, go ahead and do another save on that. And just so you know, there's nothing wrong with you're making it harder on yourself when you have to just click cancel. And that is, you just click the disk icon there and it'll save it for you. Right here. That's easiest. Now do another run and run it correctly. Let's see what it does. Not tools. Another one. There you go. There you go. You got it. So the P stands for paragraph. It's another one of these block level elements. All right. What we will learn in the next chapter is, if we want to, how we can center that paragraph text, or left align it, which is done by default, or right align it, or fully justify it. So we'll learn all that stuff because in Chapter 3, we start going over what's called CSS, or cascading style sheets. All right. All right, you don't have to do this, but if you would, please just take a look up on the screen here. Okay, you don't have to do this. I'm going to get rid of it right away, but I'm going to put in another paragraph here. And I'm going to put in the word hello, but notice how I'm going to do it. I'm going to put in H-E-L L-O. Anybody want to take a guess what that's going to look like when I print it before, you could try it, but anybody want to guess?
I have a question. Why did you skip 2 lines?
Why did I skip 2 lines where?
26 is empty.
Oh, you don't have to, just so stuff didn't run together.
Okay.
I probably could have put one here too. That's just for the look on here. It doesn't change the way that it appears on screen at all. All right. But I want to show you, if you look here, watch what happens with this. Instead of being on different lines, HTML eats white space. Even if I hit the space bar or whatever, if I hit enter a bunch of times, it's only one space. If I literally wanted, don't ask me why I'd want to do this, but if I wanted these to each appear on their own line, I'd put what's called a break tag at the end of each one of those. Now notice when I run it, see the difference? So the BR tag, which is discussed in the book on page 37 and the top of page 38, all right? That's what you use that for. That forces a line break. You can put that anywhere you want. So if for some reason I don't really want to do this, but if for some reason I wanted there to be a blank, go to a new line right there, right in the middle of that where it says come to the aid of their party right there. I could put a BR tag right there, and notice when I run it, it put a break there. Does that, I'll take your question, does that make sense? That's forcing a line break. Yes?
Mine won't run.
Okay, I'll be right there then. All right. So how you do this is up to you, but somewhere in the document that you're working on, somewhere, and I don't care how you do it, somewhere put a line break in there. I don't care if you do it the way that I showed it to you, and you do it like this, or whatever way you want. But somehow put a line break in there, just so you've got a BR tag in there. And that'll bring us up to page 38. We're going to talk about block quotes in just a minute. Oh, your title, the slash is going to come before the word title. I don't know if that would be enough to move it up or not. Yeah, as soon as you end that, then it should, everything else looks like
No,
it
I
should.
have to start it again.
Oh, okay. Well, you have to save it though first. It's still running the old copy. So every time you make changes, you should be saving. And the easiest way to save in here, you don't even have to do a file save. You've got a picture of a disk that's on there, so right there. That'll save for you automatically. That's the easiest way. You don't have to do it that way, but that's the easiest way to save.
Awesome. Okay.
Any other questions? All right. So on page 38 in the book, and again, I'm trying to have this be hands-on. So if you're working with the PDF copy, you're going to have to kind of follow along in there on your own. But they talk about what's called a block quote element. All right? And it says the block quote element is used to display a block of quoted text in a special way. All right? So I'm going to do this. I'm going to put in here block quote. What I like to do is as soon as I create a tag, I immediately create the ending tag. Then I don't have to worry about, because now they're both there. And I'm going to say here, penny saved is a penny earned. Ben Franklin. I don't remember if he's the one who said that or not, but for now, he's the one who said that. And I'm going to save that. If you look up on the screen here, you see how it's been pushed off a little bit? Can you see that? It's moved over a little. All right. That's typically what happens when you use a block quote. All right. Now, I'll take your question in a second, but I want to mention something, and that is block quotes are not used very often. There's other ways to do it. And I'm going to ask what's going to sound like a really stupid or maybe strange question. Any of you, when you were little kids, do you ever get have your mom or dad buy you, was like in a little egg, silly putty? You know what that is? And I remember when I was a little kid, that's when our comics on Sundays were in color, and you would press that silly putty on there, and you'd get the image and you could stretch it, etc. That's what people over the years did with HTML. They took tags that were meant to do something and they made them do something that they weren't designed to do. And I always call it the silly puttying of HTML. That's one of the reasons it fell out of favor and people went to XML and said this package stinks, because people started using it in a way it shouldn't have been used. Now with its new revolution, people are trying to use things in the way they're supposed to be being used. The reason I'm telling you that is most people, I would say that if I had to guess, probably less than 10% of websites have any kind of block quote in them. And if you told me it was 1%, I would believe you. You had a question, sir.
All this is going to be on your YouTube page, right?
It's going to be on what?
All this is on your YouTube page?
Yeah, well, all the stuff I'm doing right now, yes. Any other questions on this? Now, I do want to go back to the book for a second and show you this. In the book, in your book, if you're using the physical book, it's the bottom of page 39. All right? And I'm going to start, I got to move down here a little bit, so let's see how do I move forward here. Let's try about 60. Of course, I went too far. No, that's too far. On the bottom of page 39 in the book, and if you look on the screen right here, they talk about phrase elements. And there's a chart on the bottom of the page that shows these different phrase elements. I'm going to practice with some of these right now. I'd like you to start getting an idea of how to use these. All right? So, what do I mean? Well, I'm going to go back to the page and I'm going to make a pair. In fact, I'm just going to go back and I'm going to grab this paragraph and just grab a sentence, 2 sentences from it. All right? You can do this any way you want to do it, but I'm going to paste that in, and there's my paragraph. All right? So I want to use some of these tags. So the first one I'm going to use is before the word good, I'm going to put a B tag in there that they show on the bottom of page 39. There's a beginning B tag, there's an ending B tag. Can you all see that? All right, I'm going to save it and run it. Now, can you notice how that word, it doesn't show that well here, it's bolded. That's what B does. B means bold. All right, I'm not going to use all of them, but I'm going to grab a few of them. So before party, I'm going to put here I. All right. Then before this people, I'm going to put the word strong. And at the end, I'm going to end my strong. And over here before party, I'm going to put in M. And I'm going to end it with M. So I'll let you catch up and put that in. All right. Make sure that you start it like this and end it like this. Start it like this, end it like this. Start, end. Every end tag, put a slash at the beginning of it. Otherwise, it looks just like the start tag. Now, I'll bring it right back up, but notice when I run this, I'm going to try to make this a little bigger so you can see it. So, can you see how the word good is bolded? The word party is italicized. Good is bolded. Party is italicized. Can everybody see that? You should have had the same thing happen with yours if you did it that way. Now, I want to mention something. This is not in the book, but I want you to hear this. Okay? B and I, would you agree B and I are easier than strong and M? Would you agree with that? It's less typing, right? Don't use them. Those are old school. B tags aren't necessarily going to work correctly on a browser for someone who's blind. They will show in different ways. All right? Because how does a browser know what bold means? All right? Usually it means say something with more force. So the recommendation is these are old. Don't use B anymore, use strong, even though it's a little more typing. Don't use I anymore, use M. Now, you'll still find people still use B, and they still use I all the time because it's less typing. But the recommendation is that for all new website development, you do not use those. All right? I'm going to put just a couple more of these in here. Okay? I'm going to put this sentence in here one more time. This now is the time for all good people. Oops. I'm going to put it in one more time in this paragraph. And I'm not going to have any bold in it, and I'm not going to have any italics or anything else like that. None of that stuff in here. But please look up on the screen here. Before I've got the now is the time, I'm going to put in what's called a small tag. So there's a beginning small tag. There is an ending small tag. All right? Now notice when I run, please look up on the screen here. You may or may not be able to tell. It is a little bit smaller. Look at the size of that word, the size of that word. Can you see that? All right. Small will become more important when we start talking about what's called a footer that goes into a document. For now, you don't have to worry too much about it. I just wanted you to see it. Now, if you get some time on your own and you want to do this, you can start playing around with some of the rest of the tags that are shown on the bottom of page 39. Do you have to use all of them? No. But to get some familiarity with them, it probably wouldn't be a bad idea. That make sense? All right. One more thing, and I want to take your question. These tags, everything that you see on the bottom of page 39, remember we went over the H1, H2, H3, H4, H5, and H6, and the P tags? I said those are called block level tags. The ones that you see right here, they call them phrase elements. Those are inline tags. They don't give you a new line like the block levels do. All right? Yes?
I can put a tag inside a tag.
Yes, you can. Now, that's a real good question. So let's say that I wanted the word good right there. Let's say that I wanted that to be both bolded and italicized. Okay? And I do the B first. Well, the rule is that when you do that, since that's at the beginning, it's also at the end. And everything that you put inside, you nest all of it inside. You understand what I'm saying? So there's the beginning, there's the end. Beginning and end. Don't put that ending I tag after this. Now the sad news is it'll still work. But what we're going to do by the end of the period today is we're going to go back and do what's called validate this document. It won't validate if you do it the other way. All right? Did that answer your question? Okay. All right, we're going to do a little bit more, and then we'll take another break. And, when you start doing this stuff, to be honest with you, and I'm not saying that this is intense. It's not. But it's enough to try to wrap your head around. It really and truly is. All right? So we're going to suppose right here, don't write this down, don't type this in, don't do anything, but I'm going to just show you something. I'm going to start up just a new thing here. Come on. In Notepad. Okay? And I'm going to say, okay, all right, I wake up in the morning. So what do? One, get out of bed. Number two, I head to the bathroom. Number three, I'm not trying to rush out, but I'm just saying the kind of thing most people do. I will relieve myself. All right? Number four, I will put toothpaste on brush. And number five, I will brush my teeth. Now, there's other things you do, okay? But I'm supposing that that's what I do. Does all that make sense? Would you agree, looking at that there are 5 things in it? Would you agree with that? Would you also agree that I really and truly should do them in that order? In other words, I wouldn't want to do number 3 first. I wouldn't want to do this before I got out of bed. All right? I did that when I was a little kid, but I really don't want to do that anymore. Does that make sense? I don't really want to brush my teeth, and then when I get done, put toothpaste on the brush because that doesn't make a lot of sense. So there's some order to this. Would everybody agree with that? So I'm going to grab all 5 of these things that I just showed you. I'm going to come back into my page here, and I'm going to put them in. Now, before it's going to look a little funky right now, but I'm going to put these in what's called an ordered list. So I'm going to put in what's called an OL tag, which means it's an ordered list. Since it starts with an OL, it's got to end with an OL. And everything that's inside of here, these are called list items. So they go inside of LIs. Oops. Now, please look up on the screen here. See what I've got? That makes sense? All right. Now, I'm going to go back to what I just put in here, and I'm going to grab every bit of it. It's going to sound strange, but I'm going to put it right below where I have it, but I'm going to change the OL to a UL. If OL means ordered list, anybody want to guess what UL means? Unordered list. So now, when I go and put this in, I've got 2 lists, an ordered one and an unordered one. I'd like you to, I don't care what you do, I'd like you right now, you can use what I have, you can make your own, but I'd like you to create both an ordered list and an unordered list right now. And if you need help, that's what's shown on pages 40, 41, 42, and 43 in your textbook. All right, you can even use what they show in there for an example. I don't care.
So it doesn't have to go into a certain paragraph. It can just be
No, in fact, you could put this whole thing into a paragraph, but typically people don't. You'll understand that more when we go into the next chapter and we talk about CSS. Now, if you don't look up on the screen, there's just one other thing about this I want to say to you. All right, and that is on the middle of page 41 in the book, and it's in here too, so I'm going to show it to you here. When they talk about an unordered list, notice what you can do. There is something called a type attribute. By default, when we put in that ordered list, it went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, correct? Yes, you're correct, Jeff. You can change it, because that's the default, but if you set type equal to A, it'll go A, B, C, D, E. If you set it to a lowercase a, it'll be A, B, C, D, E in lowercase. If you put an I in there, it'll do it in Roman numerals, and a little I, it'll do it in lowercase Roman numerals. You don't have to do that, but I just want you to understand there's other things that you can add there. So if I just wanted to show you, I'll show it to you. You don't have to do it. You can if you want to. But I'm going to say in here, type equal a big A. All right? So you see that. I just put type equal A, and please look up on the screen. You already saw this. There's the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If I refresh my screen, see how it changed to A, B, C, D, E? All right? I don't care which way you do it. So which way should you use? It depends on what it is you're trying to show. You literally could create an outline using OL and LI tags. All right? Remember back in middle school maybe when you had to do outlines and book reports and stuff like that? At least I did. All right? If you don't put a type in here at all, if I leave that out, then it uses 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? So make the first one. Get done with it, copy the whole thing, or retype it. If you don't know how to copy, let me know. The easiest way is to just highlight all of it like this, right mouse click and choose copy, then go down below it, right mouse click and choose paste. That's the easiest way. All right? But we're making an ordered list and an unordered list.
Is there different types for an unordered list?
No, well, good question. The question was, are there different types for the unordered list? And the answer is, what you can do in here is you can change, so instead of having this, where is it? This is called a bullet. You can change it so it's either a circle that's not colored, a square, or if you've got your own graphic, you can put your own graphic in there. Sometimes you see it when it's got a greater than sign or whatever, so you can do that. Yeah, it's a good question. We're going to do two more things, and then we'll take our next break. All right? I'm taking for granted you're not asking questions, that you're putting this stuff in. I'm just going to very quickly look through this when you send it to me to make sure that you put all the stuff in there. What I don't want is later for somebody to say, you never told us about ordered lists. All right? Well, that way I can turn around and say, well, Colin, yes, we did, and here's your assignment where you used an ordered list. All right? That's the idea behind it. All right, so turning up to page 44, they talk about description lists. These, I'm just telling you right now, these are not used often. All right? But I'm going to put one in anyway, and I'm only going to put in a few terms, just so you see it, okay? So a definition list starts with what's called a DL tag. DL for definition list. So there's my beginning DL tag, so I'll need an ending DL tag. All right? Inside of a definition list, the first thing you put in there is a DT tag, which is definition term. So I'm going to put in here CPU. If you don't know what a CPU is, it's a central processing unit for a computer. So I'm going to put in that. All right? Then underneath it, I'm going to put a DD, which is definition data. This is going to, I guarantee you, this is the only time this semester that you will actually have to use one of these. But at least you've seen it. So there's a beginning DL and an ending DL, a beginning DT and an ending DT, a beginning DD and an ending DD. I'm going to save, and I'm going to run the program. Please look up on the screen. You see what it did? It put the next thing on a new line, and it pushed it over. Sometimes people use this if they're going to make their own glossary type of thing on a website. All right? There's absolutely nothing wrong with using it. That said, other than what I just mentioned, I can't think of a reason you'd reuse it very often. All right? Now, you might look at that and go, well, you're wrong, Jeff. You're really wrong. Okay. All right, two more things, one more thing, and then we're going to take a break. I had a student years ago, and over the years, maybe I've mellowed, but I know it's hard to believe, but I used to be a real wise ass. All right, in some ways I still am, but I was really bad. Students would ask me a question, and sometimes if I'd had enough for a day, so you don't know, but at the school I used to teach at, here I've got 2 classes. They're each 4 hours long, but they're 2 classes. Where I used to teach, I had 9 classes a semester. And so I was every day, sometimes I would go from 8 in the morning till 10 at night. It's one of the reasons I left there. I was making a lot of money, but I couldn't handle it. I was literally going nuts. But I had a student ask me one day, they said, if I want to say X equals Y divided by Z, well, I think you'd agree that's not on your keyboard, right? That's not. So what you do in computer terms is you say X equal Y divided by Z, okay? But I had this student that what he did was it bugged him, and he really wanted to use this. All right, and I knew that there's a way you can do that. You use what's called a special character. And I said, you know what, if you can find it, you can use it. And he did. He went out and he had the wherewithal to teach it to himself. Well, the one I'm going to show you is, we're going to put, at the bottom of our page, we're going to put a copyright. So we're going to say copyright. We'll make it a big C. All right. 2017. And I'll put all this out in just a second. We'll put by. And you'll put your name. None of you are named Jeff Scott, but that's what I'm putting. But I want a copyright symbol here. That little, in fact, that's not even, that's an @ sign. It's the one that's got it like a C. It looks like that. That's what we want. So we'll use what's called a character entity to do that. All right, I'm going to show you what that is right now. So right below our definition, I'm going to put in this. And I'll put it in a paragraph tag. You don't have to, but I will anyway. So here's my paragraph tag. Oops. And I'm going to put in here copyright. Now this looks a little weird. It's going to say ampersand copy. Okay, do you see how it went and now it looks kind of italicized? It's a special, the system knows that's something special. So it's going to say here, 2017 by Jeff Scott. All right, and please look up on the screen. I'll bring it right back, but I want to run this. See that? That's not on your keyboard. That's what's called an HTML entity. It's a special character, something special you have to type in order to get it to work. Some of the special characters are shown in your book on page 46. Some of them, not all of them. So, somebody tell me, I want to learn what all the character entities are. Where do I go to look? How about W3 Schools? Just go out to W3 Schools and search for character entities or HTML entities. There literally are probably a couple hundred of them. There's all sorts of weird characters. You know, did you ever see this? How much did it cost? It cost 47 cents. That's not on your keyboard, but that's a character entity if you want to use that. All right, so there's special characters that you can use. It's not that you ever have to, but there's characters that you can use if you're so inclined. All right? So that brings us to the bottom of page 47, and we're going to start talking about, there's a few more things in here. All right? But I think it's 9:52. This is a good time. So let's take another break. Let's come back. Please be back no later than 10:05. All right?